Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So do me a favor before we dive into today's topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with an update for the Last of Us HBO Season 2. It seems that there have been hints dropped that they found whoever it is they want to play Abby in Season 2. And on top of that, we're getting more information on just how many seasons of this show we can expect. So this is being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle. They say HBO's The Last of Us showrunner Craig Mazin has teased that the TV series may have cast Abby. The show's second season will be based on the events of The Last of Us Part 2, in which this character plays one of the central roles. During a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Mazin was asked whether the show has found someone to portray Abby, to which he jokingly responded, maybe. He then said that she was the first character that the production team wanted to cast, and they were in the process of doing so, but the ongoing Hollywood strikes have slowed things down a bit. Look, Abby was the first role that we wanted to tackle, Mazin said. We've got a pretty good track record of making major cast announcements and people going, really? Which will probably continue. So people may disagree, but I think we got it right so far, and the audience seems to feel we got it right, and the Academy seems to feel we got it right. So the way he's talking about it, it really does sound like they did already cast the role here, and we're basically just waiting for the official announcement. And he's also making it sound like when this announcement happens, they fully anticipate that there will be some discourse, there will be some conversations happening online, and some disagreement. I think that is frankly just going to be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the character Abby and The Last of Us HBO Season 2. But I also want to let you know that during this interview, he was asked how many seasons we can expect with The Last of Us HBO, and he says that it could range anywhere between 3 and 5 seasons, and it really depends on like how many episodes there are and, you know, the exact way they want to tell the story. But, you know, that's more than what we've heard, right? I think the most we heard in the past is they're going for 3, but now they're saying that they could go to 4 seasons or maybe even 5. So yeah, that'll be very interesting. It sounds like if they were to go to like 5 seasons, they would have to add quite a bit to The Last of Us Part 2's story, because I'm just not sure how they could get, you know, 4 total seasons out of that game. I guess it's possible, but there you go. That's the latest update on The Last of Us HBO. Let me know your thoughts on that. Moving on to the next topic, we have an update on the Red Dead Redemption PlayStation 4 port. Some very disappointing news in my opinion. This is once again being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle. The technical experts at Digital Foundry broke down the PS4 version. It gives players the option to use FSR2, which is AMD's upscaling technology for anti-aliasing, but also has an FXAA, fast approximate anti-aliasing option, which the outlet noted was inferior. It runs at native 4K and at 30 frames per second on both PS4 Pro and PS5. The base PS4 runs the game at 1080p at 30 frames per second. The PS5 port does not bump up the frame rate to 60 FPS when played in backwards compatibility mode like some other PS4 games. The actual visuals in this Red Dead Redemption PS4 port haven't been updated much either, according to Digital Foundry, and the textures are essentially untouched. The PS4 version has higher shadow quality, but as the outlet noted, the outlines are rather sharp and some might prefer the old, softer look. The user interface, aside from the button prompts, has also not been redrawn, and each element still runs at 720p, meaning the menus can look pretty blurry. Because of these limitations and the lack of a PC version, there still isn't an official way to play Red Dead Redemption at 60 frames per second. However, Digital Foundry released a video in July about the emulated Xbox 360 version running at a higher frame rate on PC. So yeah, this is very disappointing. We've already talked about this Red Dead Redemption PlayStation 4 port, and a lot of people, you know, have responded negatively to it. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it matters because it is trending on the PlayStation Store. It seems like at $50, even locked at 30 frames per second, even on the PlayStation 5, it's going to sell perfectly fine. I think Take-Two Interactive knows this. This is why they're doing the bare minimum here. They know that they can get away with it, but still it is something that we should call out and we should point out. I firmly believe that a PlayStation 3 game such as Red Dead Redemption that is being ported to the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro, and playable on the PS5 should at the very least come with a 60 frames per second boost. At the very least on the PlayStation 4 Pro and the PS5, right? I think it's just insane that they've already done the bare minimum here where we're looking at menus that are running at 720p on the PS5, but they can't even be bothered to bump up the frame rate. And what makes it worse is just how Digital Foundry pointed out that there was pretty much nothing done to this, like nothing. The only thing they implemented was FSR and FXAA, and that does help a lot, of course, to get that native 4K image, but that is literally the only thing that was done here. So yeah, for $50, this is what Take-Two Interactive is doing with Red Dead Redemption. I think this game deserves much more than this, but at the very least, I think it deserves to be running at 60 frames per second if you're playing it on the PS5. But there you go. I just wanted to give you guys that update. Let me know your thoughts on that. We're moving on to the final topic of the video, which talks about Sony Santa Monica. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. They say Sony's God of War studio, Santa Monica Studio, is looking for a combat designer with knowledge of both 2018's God of War and last year's sequel, God of War Ragnarok. Back in 2021, we reported that Sony's first-party studio might very well be working on an unannounced project next to the now-released God of War Ragnarok. Interestingly, shortly after the release of 2018's God of War, creative director Cory Barlog said that he wanted to create an all-new IP. No additional details about Santa Monica Studios' upcoming project have been revealed, but this freshly spotted job listing for a combat designer at the studio might suggest that at least one team is working on something God of War related, possibly a sequel to Ragnarok. Santa Monica Studio is seeking a combat designer for the development of a new unannounced title, the job ad reads. Now, while this is quite broad, the listing also mentions something more interesting: knowledge of the studio's most recent God of War titles. Must have knowledge on God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, and be able to speak in depth about the combat systems, mechanics, and enemies. Quite interesting for sure, and although this doesn't confirm that the studio is actually working on a new entry in the franchise, it would make sense given the tremendous success of the previous two entries and the revenue that both games have generated for Sony. In 2018, it was reported that God of War generated over $131 million in digital revenue alone. A year later, it was reported that the title managed to generate over $500 million in revenue for Sony, for both physical and digital. As covered late last year, Ragnarok sales have already surpassed 5.1 million copies globally, then becoming Sony's fastest-selling first-party launch title in PlayStation history. Some months ago, Sony reported to have sold over 11 million copies of Ragnarok, adding to the enormous success of the game for Santa Monica Studio and Sony. So, yes, if there is any question at all whether or not we are going to be seeing more God of War games, there shouldn't be. We absolutely are. This is Sony's powerhouse IP, so it's absolutely safe to say we will be seeing more. Now, I don't want people to assume that Sony Santa Monica is only working on God of War. We know that Cory Barlog has a second team and they're working on a new AAA IP that we have to imagine is going to be revealed in the next year or so, ideally, but that is something they're also working on. And this makes sense because if they have another team that is beginning work on another God of War title, it's very early in development. We know how long these games can take to develop, and so if we do see this God of War sequel, it's not going to be anytime soon. It could very well end up being a PlayStation 6 title. I mean, that is just how long some of these AAA games these days take to develop. And we have some idea that maybe Cory Barlog started working on this brand new IP since maybe around 2019, maybe even 2018, not too long after God of War 2018 shipped. So they've been working on it for some time. This is seemingly the way Sony wants to try to balance out their big AAA teams. They want to have more than one team working on multiple games at one time to kind of ensure that they can have the best output that they can, right? Where it's not just you're getting one game from one studio every 5 to 7 years, but maybe 2 games every 5 to 7 years. I think, that is ideally what they're striving for, but it'll be really interesting to see what they do with the next God of War title. I'm not going to spoil anything here. All I'm going to say is that there are many different directions they could end up going in with the next God of War title. And so with that, I think this is where I'm going to end the video. I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you think about the 3 topics we talked about? I'll be interested to read what you have to say. So leave your comments down below. Again, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.